Peacock fuels your true crime obsession with exclusive new originals. John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise.
Clowns can get away with murder.
And Epstein's shadow, Ghislaine Maxwell.
She inherited Jeffrey Epstein's secrets.
Plus the most bingeable crime series, Snapped. Sign up now at peacocktv.com.
This is Flags Fly Forever with Mike Gianella, John Hegland, Samuel Hale, and the Baseball Prospectus Fantasy Team.
Welcome to episode 261 of Flags Fly Forever, a Baseball Prospectus Fantasy Baseball podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Gianella. With me, as always, is your other co-host, John Hegland, and behind the glass, Samuel Hale. How are you doing?
Doing all right here. Samuel, how are you doing?
I've successfully dodged weather to allow us to record, and I'm currently watching Shohei Ohtani bat. So overall, can't complain too much.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's solid. So tonight we were going to talk. We're actually doing a mailbag, or I guess a Twitter bag, as it were. We solicited some questions, and we got a few. But before we do that, Samuel had a question for us, or a discussion topic. So as you can hear, I'm just diving right in and dispensing with the pleasantries. So Samuel, what do you have for us?
So we do baseball and we do life on this podcast from time to time because baseball is a kind of a cruel mistress. Sometimes it gives us a lot, sometimes it gives us a little. But I wanted to bring this to the program because I think not only are you, Mike and John, going to be dealing with this probably sooner rather than later, but I think our listeners are going to be dealing with this sooner rather than later. I had my first post-COVID meetup with people since the pandemic started yesterday. It was a meetup of all people who have been vaccinated fully. So we're all two shots and 2 weeks in. And we met over baseball. One of our friends is moving to a new city for work. And so we sent them off in fine fashion. But I got to tell you, it was first off, it was incredibly enjoyable. I have not seen these people since last January. So it's been now, 13, 14, 15 months, however long. I was told there would be no math. But just to be able to see other people again, like I haven't seen anyone that wasn't a coworker of mine or someone that I'm related to in like a gathering sense since this started all the way back in like late February, early March. Like I have been going to work decently consistently in the office just because it kind of requires me to do so. But like I haven't gone to any sort of like social event or any social event for that matter. It's been work, essential grocery store, anything like that, or whatever, and then home. So it was really strange to be just being around people again. But I just kind of noticed a couple things, and I'm doing this mainly because I think there's other people that are going to notice this as well. So like we went to one of our mutual friends' homes. We had not seen it. He had closed on it right before the pandemic started. But like it was very natural to like you're inside for a little minute, you're around other people, and then the urge is instantly, let's go outside. Let's just go outside. Let's migrate this outside. And we spent most of our event outside, which was very nice. But I'm here to kind of tell you and talk through like that's coming for all of us. That first, be it a party, be it just a family gathering, be it whatever. I'm telling you, it's going to be probably extremely pleasant. I had a wonderful time. It's going to be really weird. I just want to warn everybody, but embrace that weirdness. Don't be scared of that. Just understand it's going to be really weird.
Yeah, I've thought for a while that the easing out of the pandemic was going to be a very kind of awkward and uncomfortable phase because everyone's level of comfort is different. Some people have been vaccinated, some haven't or are waiting on their second shot. So, but it's funny that you should bring that up because while we've interacted with a few people, we had kind of have a small pod of people so that our kids can, with two other families, but we haven't really socialized. It's been more like dropping off kids and picking up kids. But tomorrow, actually, I'm going out for a beer with a coworker of mine. And then on Friday, I'm meeting up with a group of people, all of whom have been vaccinated, for just a little gathering, a little outdoor gathering. So, like you, I'm re-entering this social world, and yeah, I think with close friends, people I know pretty well, it won't be that strange. But the idea of going to a party where or some kind of gathering where there are, people I don't know, yeah, that's going to take some relearning. Like that muscle has kind of atrophied for me, and it's going to take some getting used to. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be weird, and I'm fully prepared for it to be weird.
Yeah, for us, we've done very little, and as I think we've been very conservative. We have seen my in-laws a couple of times, and like we've seen them like inside at their house, like with masks, like socially distanced. We've done some outdoor gatherings. We got together with my sister and her family. It was like last month. It was Easter, actually. It was like a nice day. Like we were outside pretty much almost exclusively. They were vaccinated at that point. We weren't. So like when, we went in, we were wearing masks, even though we were vaccinated. So we're like, well, we still need to protect ourselves. But yeah, like for me, like May 8th is the magic day of the vaccination, where my wife and I are supposed to get our second one. So I guess really May 22nd, that 2 weeks after is a magic date. And yeah, I'm already, we're talking this pre-show, like I'm already kind of looking at minor league games and looking forward to doing that. I think a major league game might be a little much, especially if they're going to kind of go to full capacity, because I do agree with you, Samuel. On the one hand, like I'm really looking forward to being back out in the world. On the other hand, it is a little nerve wracking, and particularly the idea of like being inside. Like, so it's kind of a weird contradiction, right? Because for the most part, we've been inside, like we've been in our homes or apartments or wherever. And like you said, John, there's some cases where if you know somebody well enough, or you're in their pod, you're like, okay, well, we're all being safe. We'll all be inside. I think that's going to be the weird thing. And then the other weird thing too is like, yeah, if you're with people who are all vaccinated, like, being inside without a mask, it's going to feel liberating in some ways. In some ways, it's going to have that weirdness of, like I don't know if I should do this. And it's, I don't know how, it's not going to be logical, but it's definitely going to be tied to those feelings. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on with me, where I'm really looking forward to some level of normalcy, like this summer and toward the end of the summer. But there's also a part of me that's like, wow, this is going to be strange. There's no way around it.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, it feels like this summer is going to be about relearning all of those behaviors and getting comfortable again in these situations. Like I'm now revising my sense of the summer from we're just going to go back to normal to okay, this is going to be the transitional season, and then maybe by fall it'll seem a little more normal. But that's fine. I'll take that, given what the last year has been. So it's I think just having something to look forward to is big for my mental health anyway.
Yeah. Are you planning any vacations, John, or getaways?
Yeah, we are gonna do a trip. Probably we're gonna go to my sister's in Portland, and we might go down to California to see family. Again, this is going to be mainly with to see family, and we'd be hanging out with family. So I don't think we have any trips that are kind of going somewhere as tourists quite yet. We might go to the East Coast in the fall, but that's still very that's tentative.
Yeah, we're really looking at low key stuff. Like we do want to take some trips, but we were thinking about maybe the Jersey Shore. We were considering like something in the Poconos, which is like a small range of hills in northern PA. If you don't know this part of or northeast PA, if you don't know this part of the country. But yeah, that was it. Like we both agreed no flights, and we don't want to do anything yet that's that big or broad. And I think to your earlier point, John, like everybody's different, right? Like some people I know, they've already been flying and or pretty much right away, like, well, I'm vaccinated, I'm okay, I'm going to fly, I'm going to take the chance. I don't know about you. For someone with me, it's having kids. Like there's still a lot we don't know as far as like the newer strains, contagion. Like I've seen some reports about that being a little riskier for kids. And yes, I know when they're masked, they're safer, but it's still we know this from just wearing masks ourselves. Like it's certainly not foolproof. Like you still can get it. So that's another piece that I'm kind of trying to balance of being like, well, I want to go back out there and do things, but I also don't want to, just take my kids on a plane or take my kids to an amusement park and be like, all right, go to town, because there's a lot we don't know. And a lot of what this comes down to too is, right now, I don't know about where the two of you are. Like here, we're seeing a lot of spread in the Northeast again, and what I'm hoping is in 2 or 3 months, as more and more people get vaccinated, that abates and that drops off.
Yeah, I think the numbers are pretty low here. So that's helpful. The flip side of that, though, is that in the state where I live, there's considerable vaccine skepticism. So I don't know if the state of Idaho is ever going to get above like 65% vaccination, which it can be problematic down the line if the new strains develop that are if there's some ability for those to develop and become resistant to vaccine. So that's many steps in the future. I think being outside, it makes me feel pretty safe, even with the kid. I think we'll be pretty vigilant about having him wear masks in crowded situations or situations where we're kind of out in the world. But we're going to adapt and just kind of figure it out as we go. I guess that's all we can do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know. And it's really what it comes down to. Like this was new for all of us. And, I think we all know, like it's still kind of an evolving situation. And, one other point, to what you just said, John, from what I've heard, getting to 50% fully vaccinated is likely. It's how far we get past that is a difficult thing. And, the hope is we get to like 75%. And, we get to that herd immunity where it's like, okay, well, this is something, I know we talked about this before. This is something I think a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of people are like, oh, you want everyone to wear a mask or everyone to be vaccinated. It's like, well, not really. Like what I want is the herd immunity where at that point it's your choice. Like if we reach that 75% herd immunity and you don't want to get vaccinated, honestly, at that point it's on you. At that point it is on you. And if you get sick and go to the hospital and the hospital's the resources to take care of you, okay, like that's at that point it really is your decision. It's just that when we're below that, then it's not really your decision. Like then it still is everybody's decision.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this pretty extensively.
Yeah,
we don't need
to beat it to death. I know.
Yeah, just in the context of players making that choice and thinking about it in terms of individual, an individual choice. And I don't want to pile on, but I think the Andrelton Simmons situation is it's just it's an object lesson in how this works, right? You can say, this is my choice, I'm not going to take the vaccine. And then a couple weeks later, your team has several positive cases.
Right.
And I just think that, look, how else are you going to learn? If that's not going to teach you the lesson of having some sort of responsibility to others, to a larger community, then nothing will. So.
Yeah, I know. And like you said, we don't need to, bang this drum again, but I agree with you. You're right. Samuel, this was your question or discussion topic. Did you have anything to add or, any particular place that you were thinking this might go that it didn't?
Well, to bring it back to baseball, because, it is a baseball podcast. Next week is minor league opening day, so I'll be going back to my home park in Frisco for opening night next Tuesday. And obviously, when we're in the press box, we've been given the health and safety protocols. And basically, it's pretty much if you're inside, wear a face mask. If you're outside, It's kind of, it seems like it's going to be up to you based on what I read, at least for media protocols. Because like if you're in the press box, a lot of scouts will end up just going and sitting in the seats because it's a lot easier to see just because of how the park is constructed. But I've been to in-person baseball in February and in March when I went to go see Jordan Lawler play. And I got to tell you, even though more at the I went to a high school stadium to see him over in Weatherford, and like we had not quite had vaccine rollout start at that time. We were still really like early in the process. Masks were supposed to be required, but almost nobody was wearing them in the stands. Obviously, I was, because that was just, even though it was outdoors. And it really set me on edge just because of like the time we were in. Like obviously the chances of it, being outdoors was probably minimal, but just to see people just like knowing what the situation was and not doing it was really weird. So like fast forward 3 months, when I go tomorrow or next week, I'm probably going to see it again. It's going to feel different because I know that there's more vaccines out there. I know where our situation is. And it's just going to be an adjustment. Like, I know y'all were kind of talking about the idea of like indoor versus outdoor and all that sort of thing. Yeah, man, like baseball is going to be a really weird spot for a while if you haven't like been out in the world, because there are certain parks like the Chicago parks or a lot of the California parks are pretty much all outside, so it's not a big deal. But if you're someone that goes to like Minute Maid in Houston or the Shed in Arlington or some of these Seattle, that's a decent example too of like kind of one of those combo parks. It's gonna be kind of weird because you're gonna be indoors, and like football is gonna be another one of these instances, pro football specifically, where like, yeah, there's plenty of outdoor football stadiums, but a lot of the pro stadiums these days are indoors. Like they close those roofs up, and it's gonna be weird. Like, and I hope people are like giving voice to it now. Is kind of hope the folks think about it and like talk about it, because it is gonna be strange. But I do implore that if you are vaccinated and you do feel comfortable, like obviously if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Like do whatever makes you feel comfortable. There's no rush. Like it's sports. You can watch it at home. It's not a big deal. But I will say, if you're on the fence and you're like, I do feel comfortable, I'm just not sure, I would say take that leap of faith. If if you need to wear a mask, wear a mask. There's no shame in that ever.
Yeah, so something I'd say, we talked about this mostly like off show and not on show. So my wife and I, we only sent our kids back to school at the beginning of this month, and the schools here opened up like for the third marking period, which I think was the beginning of 2021. And it was smack dab in the middle of a big spike, which is why I didn't want to send them back. And the spike got worse. Like at the time we had to make the decision, there wasn't, it was the case lows were high, but then right when schools opened, things spiked, and the schools like didn't make any decisions that were tied to that, which really, upset me and bothered me. And I didn't want to send them, back in April, but we finally decided to. And I have to say, I'm much more comfortable with the decision than I thought I would be, and much less like nervous or anxious and upset. And part of it is they're less anxious and upset. But part of it is, I honestly have to say, like, the socialization and being in school, even as limited as it is with social distancing and no lunches and no clubs or activities, I really do think makes a difference for them. And, I bring this up, like, not to pat myself on the back. Like I still wonder every day if, we made the right decision or not, but more to kind of tie into your point, Samuel, which is I think there is something to be said for getting out there. And, even if you do it in the what about Bob way, like even if you do it in the baby steps way, this is an old person movie reference, Samuel. But, even if you do it in that way where you're like, baby steps to, an outdoor restaurant if you haven't been doing that before, or baby steps to an indoor restaurant where maybe there's just a handful of people in there. At some point, you're taking these steps where I think you might be surprised, particularly if you and your party and everyone around you are vaccinated. Like you might be like, yeah, you know what, this feels okay. And if anything, I think we're going from worry to like, oh, even though I'm wearing a mask, I still might get the coronavirus, to be like, well, I'm vaccinated. And even the extremely unlikely chance I get COVID, the whole idea of the vaccines is I get a mild version of it. and that's it. I don't get a version of it that, really like throws me for a loop.
And I will say, to kind of piggyback off some of that, it does feel really nice. Like, I don't know if I reiterated this enough earlier when I was telling the story, but like when I left last night, because we got together probably right around dinner time, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And like we shut the thing down around 2 a.m. Like it was a lot of fun. And I think a lot of us have
young again.
You're relatively
the last
young.
time I
or to be at like Labor or Tout weekend, John.
I could probably handle it like once a year.
That's about right. Yeah, pretty much.
It's easier when you don't drink, John, which I do not. Like that makes my life a little easier. But like I think we've forgotten in a certain way like the joys of socialization, and not because like we want to, but just because I think it's very much a skill. I think it's very much something that if you don't practice it, it's kind of like a muscle. It will retract. But I think we also we get used to things as humans very easily just because we kind of have to. We have to be such flexible creatures. Oh, your job changes. Well, in 3 weeks, I'll get used to that. Oh, I've got to change my route to work. Well, in 3 weeks, I'll get used to that. I think we've just, in a year plus inside, at least for most people.
Ever wanted to break out of your cubicle and into a business where you can call the shots? You Break iFix is looking for passionate self-starters interested in a franchise opportunity in the booming electronics repair industry. At You Break iFix, we help reconnect people to the devices that they rely on so that they can get back to what matters most. This is a big responsibility, and from the moment you join our family, our franchisees are provided with the resources and support to bring affordable and convenient electronics repair to your community. Did we mention that with amazing partners like Samsung and Google, You Break iFix franchisees also have access to the highest quality parts and personalized training out there, as well as specialized tools? It's true. And it's also easy to visit youbreakifix.com/franchising and learn more about your big break at your very own You Break iFix.
Your AC works overtime all summer, so be sure to replace your old air filters with new Filtrete air filters. They recommend updating HVAC filters at least every 3 months all year round. So order your Filtrete air filters today at Filtrete.com. Let's clear the air.
I'm sure there's some folks that haven't missed a beat based on social media, but the idea of like just being around other people, that's a learned activity that we're going to have to like reacquire. But like the feelings are also still going to be there, and they're still pretty freaking awesome. I got to say, it's a really nice feeling, and that's the driving force. Like I hope everyone remembers, like, hey, hanging out with folks is really freaking fun and cool, and like people are nice, and like especially the people that maybe not the people down at the grocery store you don't ever interact with, but like the people that you know and love, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So I think, for me, like the limited behaviors that I've been exposed to are often like bad behaviors, because it's that rare occasion you go to the supermarket or the pharmacy or somewhere you have to go, and you see somebody going the wrong way down the aisle if there's like arrows, or not wearing their mask properly, or getting too close to you in line, where your reaction's like, what the hell, dude? So by contrast, you're going to be seeing people you like, seeing people who, presumably, if you haven't seen them in a year, have been also following the rules and or have been waiting for this moment, and chances are going to be respectful. So that's the other side of it. Like I think we've had this year plus of it's not only been a drain because of the fact that like for many of us we just haven't done much. It's also that drain of like when we do go out, we kind of see the worst behavior, and some of it's psychological. To be fair, I think what happens at the grocery store is like what happens anywhere else. Like 95% of, or if not more, people are doing what they should be doing, but you notice the 5%. Like you notice the people where you're like, what the heck? Like, why are you being an asshole? And you never come home and you never come home and tell your wife, oh, I went to the grocery store and 199 people were fine. You're like, hey, that one person was an asshole.
Of course, because that's the one that stands out.
It's human nature too.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because I mean my spin on it is like I am fucking exhausted of having to or expending psychic energy on being mad at people who are being unsafe or doing things that I think are dumb. And I don't want to, I want to, I don't want to be a mask scold, but I think especially over the winter when, there weren't many people out of doors, and, in the community where I live, there's a small but very, very vocal group of people who are against wearing masks under any circumstances. And I'm just exhausted of caring about that. Like I yearn for a world where when I go outside and there are people whose beliefs or politics I might disagree with, that I don't have to kind of confront that fact visibly, where we can just sort of, go our separate ways. And
well, there's that.
It doesn't have to.
I mean, honestly, you don't want to worry about them getting you sick, right? Like before, if somebody disagreed with your politics, it's like, for the most part, it's like, okay, you're a jerk, or, okay, you're an idiot, or, okay, you believe this stupid thing. And by the way, I understand what some of what I'm talking about is white privilege, and I get that. I'm not, saying it isn't. I'm just saying that is part of our privilege, right? Like, well, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. With this, there's literally that feeling of like, hey, moron, like the fact that you're not wearing a mask is, could get me really sick. You dumb, don't do it. And I think that's sort of, again, that's why I'm hoping for the herd immunity or something close to it, where it's like, well, like you're putting this back on you and not on us, where it's like, well, if you don't want to, there was this, I made a reference on the show before, but there was this Onion story, like after, the ACA was passed, and it was basically like one of their like fake opinion pieces. And it was a guy like on dialysis saying, I'd rather die than like take, healthcare from Obama. And, it was worded differently than that, but that was the whole idea of, the political insight of somebody who's like, I'd rather die or not get healthcare or be really sick, than take anything the ACA or a Democrat could give me. And this has that same mentality, right? Like this has that same, and it's not just like Republicans, but I think there's a mentality like this throughout the political spectrum. But the idea is that there are some people like, no, I don't want to do the good thing or the right thing. I believe what I believe. And again, truthfully, if we get to the herd immunity point, I'll be more like, well, okay, like if that's what you believe and I'm vaccinated and you're not going to affect my kids who presumably, in a few months will hopefully be vaccinated too, I still think you should get vaccinated. But now it's back to a you problem, right? It's no longer a me problem. It's back to a you problem.
Look, I live in Idaho, so I want to go back to a world where if people whose politics are different from me, they are gonna hurt me, they're gonna do it in the old-fashioned way with guns and not a virus. Sorry.
No,
it's dark.
No, I was thinking.
Buddy, I live in Texas. What do you think?
I was thinking something similar, and I didn't want to go there, but I was thinking it.
Well, it's a baseball podcast.
Yeah, I think as always we spent a lot of time on this, probably more than we were thinking, but that's fine. I mean,
it's a baseball podcast, but baseball is people, and people is life, and like people listen to this podcast, so there's a certain humanism to what we do.
Well, and again, at the top of my list of going out is, outside of, stuff with my family, obviously, but the next thing on my list is going to games with friends. Like that's a big piece of it. Like, look, as much as I like watching games by myself, at some point, if that's all I'm doing, it gets dry. Like you're like, okay, well, like I'm just here, I'm in my house, I'm watching games. Like, even once in a while, like I didn't do this a lot, but like once in a while, I would like to go out to a bar on a weekend and like not even watch a whole game, just watch 2 or 3 innings. And, just sit there and, watch other people react, like watch how they watch the game. Maybe not strike up a full conversation, but, maybe like make a couple comments. It's nice. Like that is the baseball tie-in. Like it's going to be nice to have that part of baseball back that we've just kind of taken for granted has been gone.
Do you know what else is nice about baseball?
Willie Calhoun.
Yes, but I was going to say baseball questions that our listeners sent us.
Oh, that's a good segue.
What a pro.
Well, it's like almost like I get paid to do it for a living. So we put up the call on our Twitter account. Hey, friends, got a question for Mike Gianella, John Heglin, and Sam Hale you'd like answered on the show? Send it in, and you might hear it on this week's episode. And y'all send us questions. Though we won't be answering one specific question, but it's because we already did it. Polish Mule, hi, hello, thank you for listening to the podcast. You sent us a Keston Hero question, and it's a good question, but we talked about it a lot last week on the podcast, so I would highly recommend checking out last week's podcast because I'm pretty confident we answered any questions about Keston Hero. I believe last week's podcast, but yes, John.
Okay, so about Keston Hero, a couple of things. Well, really one thing that I learned today, and this is really to a larger point that I think we make this point, but it's easy to forget this point, and that's the point that baseball players are people too, with lives and personal challenges. And one thing I learned today is that Keston Hiura's mother was diagnosed with cancer, I think lymphoma, over the winter. And it was, I think, on the Brewers broadcast, and I didn't hear all the details about it, but that his mom lives in the San Diego area, and the Brewers are going to San Diego this week, I believe. And he's going to be able to see his mother for the first time, possibly since she started chemotherapy, but I don't want to get the facts wrong. And he had shaved his head in support, in solidarity with his mom. And, you know, it's just to bring up the point that we can do a deep dive on Keston Hiura's swing, on his approach at the plate, on pitches that he's not able to get to, or that he's, pitches out of the zone that he's swinging out, pitches in the zone that he's missing on. And there's this whole other dimension that could be every bit as important to his early season struggles. And we just don't know. So it's just there's nothing actionable there. In fact, I took Hiura out of my TGFBI lineup for the first part of this week. But maybe this is something that seeing his mom and spending time with her, who knows if that puts him in a different frame of mind. So
yeah, I brought up this example time and time again, but Frank Thomas, the worst year he had in his prime in his career, nobody knew was wrong. And there was all this analysis, this is the pre-Statcast days of is he swinging differently? He's doing this, he's doing that. And, reporters at the end of the year or spring training, asked him out. He's like, look, I was getting a divorce. And, honestly, that's all I could think about. I was miserable. And, I didn't want to talk about it. Obviously, it was a private thing. I didn't want to turn it into, I didn't want it to be in the press. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, something like that is going to affect you and mess with your mind and make baseball seem, I know these guys are athletes and we all think that, they can just on a dime, get on the field and play. And, sometimes it doesn't work that way. And you're right, John, we don't know, we don't know. And, if you ask Keston Hiura about it, if he even wanted to talk about it, maybe he would say, well, honestly, no, that's not it. I'm doing something wrong, this way or that way or another way. I know the problem is I've talked to the coaches, but yeah, that could certainly be a factor as well. And, it's kind of tough, but yeah, to get back to the question from, I think it was Polish Mule 22.
It was.
I wrote I even wrote something. I know it's behind the paywall, but I wrote a good amount about the baseball side of this from Hiura, and I mean it's kind of tough. One thing about this question, it just mentions early draft or dynasty league. So I don't really know the format. I don't know the depth. Truthfully, in a dynasty format, I think you do have to write it out. Just because it's not a keeper, it's not a redraft. You're talking about someone I believe is still a really talented player, and I think regardless of what the outcomes are, even when it comes to the low batting average, and he's not quite the hitter we're expecting, the power tool to me is still really strong. And you're talking about a number one overall pick who, how old is he? I mean, he's not he's 24, 25. He's not old. Or he's not at that point. He's not
24, 25 in August.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, so 24 years old. I mean, I think there's another thing with what you said is valid, John. But putting aside all that as well, I think we often forget. We see elite hitters like Ronald Acuna or others barely ever stumble. And the reality is more often than not, these young hitters, no matter how highly touted they are, do stumble. So yeah, I would, I would hang tight. Unless you get an offer that's, 90 cents on the dollar, I just wouldn't. What I wouldn't do is like, make a trade at 50 cents on the dollar and be like, I wash my hands of Keston Euro. That would be a mistake for me.
No, I agree completely, and I would even, maybe look at acquiring him, especially in a dynasty or keeper format. Yeah, and by the way, Polish Mule is his name is Bobby. Thanks, Bobby.
Yes, thanks, Bobby.
For the question.
And if you need some more Keston Hero, we did talk about him on last week's pod. Mike's piece on BP is still there, but you even got a little bit more here. This is because we're generous. We're generous podcasters. Let us move now to Will. Will sent us a trio of questions, and we'll start with our baseball one. And I think we're going to take a small twist on this one, but I'll use his exact words to start. If you had Soto in an OBP Dynasty 15-team league, what kind of return would you need to part with him? Conversely, trying to acquire him, is he so good that you essentially trade whatever it takes? Obviously, we are not Tino. They would probably be the ones that handle this. But I think this does bring up an interesting question of like early season trades. We're less than a month into the season right now. If you have a player like Juan Soto, are you thinking about trading him early? Are you wanting to keep him? And if you are thinking about trading him, are you trying to oversell, undersell? Like, what's your strategy for a guy like that this early?
Well, for me, I know, he's on the IL. Like for me, Soto's the kind of player that you don't trade. Really. So in a redraft, obviously, if you've drafted him in the first round, you're pretty much riding out that first round value. But even in a dynasty, some of the same advice kind of applies. Like if you're invested on Soto, if you took him, if you believed in him, he's a player that, even if it's just like more of a standard keeper where you have contract clock, you just have to pretty much go with him unless somebody completely bowls you over. I think the other side of this question was, conversely trying to acquire him. Is he so good that you essentially trade whatever it takes? There's obviously limits to that. Like you can't trade half your team for a player, no matter how good they are, because you need other players to fill those holes. But Soto's the rare player that I wouldn't mind, like using the dynasty example, like trading 2 top prospects and then maybe like a third B-level prospect to get him. Because the title of this podcast is Flags Fly Forever, right? So the idea is you worry about those top prospects, who are a couple of years away later. And if they pan out, it's like, okay, well, that stinks, but I got Juan Soto. And in a dynasty format, you still have Juan Soto. Like even if those other 2 prospects both max out, you still have the elite player, right? Nothing's really going to change with him. So yeah, I would, hold on to him if I have him and trade pretty heavily for him if I have the opportunity to get him. I know we're talking about Juan Soto. This sounds like really simple boilerplate advice, but yeah.
Well, in the dynasty context, you really have to think about, under what circumstances would 2 teams match up on a Soto trade. And it's likely that the team acquiring Soto is going all in, that they are hoping to win this season. And in that case, if you're acquiring Soto, you should be prepared to kind of open up your prospect cupboard, because more than likely, if you're on the acquire or if you're selling Soto, you're looking to do that to, maybe Soto's your only star and you have a pretty barren minor league, component to your roster. Then you're really looking to restock and you're really looking to cash in to form a foundation for your next winning team. So in that case, I think you would need, like Mike, you said, like 2 top prospects and like a B-level prospect. And I think that's at the very least. Like you want, I think for Soto, you want to get 2, top 20 prospects, I think, out of that.
Oh yeah. When I say top prospects, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. So
elite level, not, top 50 or top 100.
Like you want to get a Wander Franco and a Bobby Witt, and then maybe another 1 or 2 pieces that are back end top 100 pieces. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
I will say, and this is always where I struggle with dynasty. Like, this is the Jeff Erickson of RotoWire saying all politics is local. I found this in keeper leagues I've been in. I know keeper and dynasty are different, but in some keeper leagues and in many of the keeper leagues I'm in, I kind of look at it as a 2-for-1, right? So if you've got the cheap, undervalued young player, you want to get back to at least like 2 like at salary or inflation players to get the young player, to trade the young player off your team. But I've been in leagues where, like, if I offered that, if I had the young player, somebody, or if I had the experienced players, somebody would be like, oh, it's more of a 1-for-1 or 1.5-for-1. You're asking for too much. And I've seen it go the other way, where sometimes it's a 3-for-1 or 4-for-1. So some of this depends on knowing your league and knowing your format, obviously, and knowing what your trading culture is like. The most important advice I always give is, like, don't undersell relative to your league's trading culture. Like, never like make a trade taking our advice and then come back to us and say, oh, but in our league, like, that's not the way it's done. It's like, well, right. you know that piece of the puzzle, and I don't.
Is it time for a new heating and cooling system? Turn to the experts at Griffith Energy Services and Carrier today and get 0% financing for 18 months on a new heating and cooling system. Get the comfort you deserve from Griffith Energy Services and Carrier. Visit griffithenergyservices.com today for this and other exclusive offers. That's griffithenergyservices.com. License number MDHVACR 01-2278.
Griffith Energy Services. Doggone dependable.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
To the question of redraft, the broader question about trading, like I tend to not seek out trades early on, but I'm open to talking. If someone approaches me, then I will entertain trades, just because, why wouldn't you? It's silly to foreclose that opportunity if it's going to lead somewhere, productive or advantageous for your particular roster situation. But I kind of like to wait, I would say probably around a month or so before I actually look at my roster and think, okay, I've really got to make changes here. So I don't know how it is for you, or how many leagues that you're in, Mike, where there's kind of an active trading culture.
It's rare, and it's similar to what you're talking about. In most leagues I'm in, the first month or maybe first month and a half, there's not a lot of trading. I do look, though, like the opportunities I look for, if for some reason I have an excess, like most commonly in a redraft league, if somebody became a closer and I've got 3 closers instead of 2, like, that's a good opportunity where you're like, okay, well, I can, trade that third closer. I don't really need it, and only in particular, and, get something else. Or if you're in a league like Tout Wars where there's a bench, and, for example, if Lodi Tavares had actually worked out, I had Taylor Trammell on my bench as well, and I would have had an extra outfielder. It would have been a nice situation to upgrade somewhere else. So, like, in those situations, I might be not aggressive, but like look into it or investigate it. But yeah, generally speaking, those types of scenarios are rare. So if I just have a balanced team, the thing you don't want to do, and again, I know this is boilerplate, but if you're in 9th, 10th place and you're like, oh no, I'm at the bottom of the standings, you just really want to wait things out, because like I know my TGFBI, like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was miserable because I had practically no points on offense. I've already like doubled that. Like, I'm already it still have a ways to go, but I've already done some of that moving up. And TGFBI is good because of the overall, it really shows you how much things fluctuate. Like today I've moved up and down about 25 in the overall rank. Yeah. That just gives you a nice idea of how early it is. And, John, I write this column every year, the whole, like the first week or two, everyone knows it's early. So nobody really gets into the whole mentality, if they're smart, at least, of like, I won, or, this is working or this isn't working. Right now we're in the danger zone, because right now we're close to the end of April. And this is when people start telling themselves, oh no, it's not early anymore. But really it is. Like, it really still is early, and there's still really a lot of potential for things to move one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you put that. It is a dangerous time of year, because, for the first week, everything's still new and novel, and you see those huge swings, and you realize that everything's pretty volatile. But now 3 or 4 weeks in, you're like, well, I just suffered through 10 days straight of my offense doing nothing. And that can feel really consequential, but I think this is the time when you really have to, be patient. I mean, obviously, if there's some reason, some tangible reason for to be alarmed about a player, you want to pay attention to it. Maybe not take action immediately, but pay attention. But in general, I would just say, look, just wait till mid to late May before you start thinking about major roster overhauls. So.
Yeah, and those reasons usually are, like an injury. And the other reason I'd give, and this is where I actually prefer scouts to stats right now. If I'm watching Keith Hernandez, for example, on SNY is great at this. Like he was talking about Josh Bell and the struggles Bell's been having, and I don't have Bell anywhere. It didn't make me want to sell him, or sell him, his stats. But I was looking at it like, wow, Keith Hernandez is right about what he's saying about Josh Bell and his struggles, and how he's like swinging at bad pitches and has a bad approach. Whereas the stats approach, it's like, okay, well, a bad week can really, magnify like what a player, is or isn't doing. And, as others have pointed out, like StatCast at this point, it's all descriptive. It's told us what a player's done. It doesn't tell us where the player's going. And, the example I was looking at before the show, Jake Cronenworth, like 2 weeks ago, everybody was patting themselves on the back about how great their Jake Cronenworth, drafting acumen was. Right now he's okay. Like, he's got a 253, 339, 358 slash line. He does have 3 steals. He's kind of what I expected. Like, and I'm not even saying that in a way of like, haha, I was right. I'm just saying in a way like, well, he could go the other way in 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks from now, we talked about this last week with like Luis Robert and Randy Rosarena. Like two weeks from now, Jake Cronenworth could be on another hot streak. Like it's 2 weeks of stats does so much at this point in the year to a player's numbers. Whereas in August, we wouldn't be paying attention to it. Like 2 weeks of numbers would be like, okay, he had 2 great weeks, but unless it was like, on a Mike Troutian level of greatness, it wouldn't really phase us in August. Right now, it still does.
I think that kind of segues nicely into Will's second question. Samuel, if you want to. Yeah, I think you want to do the MC honors.
I would love to. So Will also asked, is there a surprise hitter you're buying into the rest of the season? So I guess we can just kind of go around the room. I've actually got 2, but I'll let the experts go first. Whoever would like to claim first sitting on this, please go right ahead.
Mike, do you have one in mind?
Not off the top of my head, so I'm gonna defer to you.
Okay, well, I have a couple, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to go with the obvious homer pick. But
you can go with both. You can go with both. We have plenty of time.
I'll go with the obvious homer pick, and I'll put a qualification on this buying into rest of season. But Buster Posey is suddenly on a pace to hit something like 30 home runs. And he's hitting, I think coming in tonight, 351, 413, 667. That's a 1079 OPS. Do I think he's going to continue at that pace? Absolutely not. But I think that what you're seeing is healthy Buster Posey. And I wondered going into this season, how many years, how many years off the aging clock we would see from Buster sitting out 2020 and basically healing up and getting his body right. And the answer is approximately 4 years, because if you look at his underlying metrics, they look a lot like his 2017 when he was, I had this up, in 2017, he had a 320 average, 861 OPS. He had a 129 DRC plus. I think those are pretty optimistic for Posey. And I also think that the Giants are going to be pretty aggressive in resting him as the season wears on. But if they can keep him healthy, I think you're going to see a top 10, maybe even a top 5 catcher. And then I don't think anyone really would have, or anyone did forecast that. I think he was maybe back end top 15 at best coming into the season. but I think the talent, I think that the health is really letting the talent kind of come through, and that talent's just been depressed the last few years that he's played because of injuries and just general wear and tear. So I do like Buster Posey. And
I guess I'll go. I guess Mike is still looking. So I've got two. I'll give you and they're both very kind of out of nowhere players. Cedric Mullins from the Orioles is a guy.
Dude, he was my other one.
Ooh, yeah, I like him. He wasn't one of mine, but I like him too.
I was talking to someone in baseball, basically trying to figure out, hey, why is Cedric Mullins a thing? And he told me basically the guy came back this year from the season last year, whatever you want to call last year, and basically said, hey, I'm going to spend the entire offseason working with a coach to redo my entire swing. And so that's what he did. He spent the entire offseason working on his swing and how he hits and the whole thing. And he came into camp with the Orioles and basically told them as much and said, hey, I'm going to work my tail off and I'm going to earn my spot. And as you can see, as we're about a month through the season, he has earned his spot through a lot of hard work. And from apparently all intents and purposes, he's one of the nicest guys ever. So if you're looking to root for a good person that's succeeding right now, and also a guy that, look, I don't know if he's going to hit as well as he is, mainly because like that's hard to sustain for any great player. Nevertheless, a guy that's popped up that we've never really heard of. But he's not that old. He's like mid-20s. I think 26 is where he's at right now. If he's smart enough to spend his entire offseason revamping his swing and comes out hot, if he hits a cold streak, he's probably going to have the self-awareness to go, okay, we can work on this and make it better. So like the brain here is kind of driving the brawn. And I'm a sucker for those kind of players in general. So Cedric Mullins is one. The other is Jared Walsh.
Can I just say a thing about Mullins before you move
sure
on to Walsh?
Yes,
I believe that he was switch hitting before this season, and that he stopped hitting from the right side. So part of his revamping, I think, had to do with just abandoning hitting from the right side and focusing on his left-handed swing. And just the other thing giving him a higher floor is the speed. Because even if he doesn't continue hitting, at a 344 pace, which I expect he won't, I think you're looking at someone who is probably safely going to get you 10 to 15 steals, in addition to having not insignificant power. I mean, he's probably like a 15-15 guy, I would say, if he gets full run, but that's totally valuable for someone who I don't think was nothing more than an afterthought coming into the season. So I just want to underscore and echo your Mullins.
Yeah, he was a reserve pick at best in like deep mix. Like he was AL only territory, and I think a lot of people completely wrote him off where they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to slash 356, 408, 556 the rest of the way. But even if he dropped 100 points off that, he'd still be pretty valuable. Like I think he's a very underrated player, and it's good for good for him. I love seeing guys get better like that. It's what makes baseball fun. One of the many things. But yes, Jared Walsh is my second player. I want to say this is a Mike special at some point. That like when we did first base week, I think this is a name you at a very low level. Like I think he was a 2-star first baseman, maybe or a high 1 that you had as a value pick. But damn, if the guy just hasn't come out and been hitting, like it's not Mickey Mantle or anything like that, but the dude just comes up there and he hits. He's maintaining an average right around 300. He's getting a couple hits every game, and he's not sexy. It's not super flashy. The guy just comes up there and hits, and it's consistent. It's pretty. There's not a lot of spikes in it. There's not a lot of just like, hey, this guy's doing things that are out of the ordinary. He's just kind of bouncing along, just keeping going, keeping it working. And it's guys like that, again, that are consistent, that aren't playing over their heads, that aren't doing things that like would be hard to replicate. Because if he wants to, even if he goes on a cold streak, he can probably just get right back to that 2 hits a game, coming right back along, do. Like it's not just crazy to think that he could do those things. So I think if you're looking for a if you don't already have him, because I mean he's scooped up in most leagues, but Jared Walsh is just that high floor guy that's going to keep hitting.
I think I was wrong on Walsh. I was more skeptical because of the small sample and some worries about what the Angels were going to do with their lineup. That has proven not to be an issue, and I think this is just, like you said, this is just
you were one of the people who wanted. You were one of the people who wanted me to move him down, and you weren't the only one, so I did. But I wasn't mad about it because your argument was cogent, and I truthfully, it's funny. Walsh is that weird player. As much as I liked him, I don't have him anywhere, so it's not like I was gung ho about him either.
Yeah, that's a good shout, Samuel.
Yeah. So mine's another catcher, and it's Carson Kelly on the Diamondbacks. So this is a player I was a year too early on. I know the whole thing. It's better to be a year too early than a year too late, but it still stings because I did have faith in Kelly. I saw what he did in 2019 with the power. I thought he was a potential 20 to 25 home run hitter. But he did have a bad year in 2020. There's no way around it whatsoever. And he has made some positive changes. Ben Clemens at Fangraphs had a nice piece a few days ago about this. And what he basically talked about is he talked about one, as bad as Kelly's raw 2020 numbers were, there were some signs that he wasn't as bad a year if you dug a little bit. But then the second piece of it is he has improved his approach at the plate. Like he's basically, it's not just the batting stance or how he's swinging. He's actually like going after the ball at different locations in the strike zone. So as a result, it's just one of those things where he's taking a swing that was already pretty good, and it's just a matter of him making better contact and swinging at better offerings. So Kelly was someone I had always, kind of believed in the talent. This is one of those usual like caveats, like, no, Carson Kelly's not going to hit 30 home runs, and he's not going to hit 340. He's been ridiculous, against left-handers, and he's always been good against left-handers, but that's certainly not going to keep up. But I think the key for Kelly, and John, I think you were the one who pointed this out when we were, dithering about Kelly in 2020. You made the point that in 2019, his numbers against lefties were spectacular, and his numbers against righties were, just, he had a 203 average. It was, I'm finding here. Yeah. 203, 303, 405 slash line against righties, which just wasn't going to cut or was going to expose. This year he's hitting very well against righties. That level won't keep up, but all he needs to do is be league average or a little bit above league average against righties. And, as a catcher, it's really going to pay off. So Kelly's my player in this category. Honorable mention, and I won't dive into these players, and I think they're a little less surprising. Jesse Winker, who I really believe is, going to, play at that elite level we were expecting. And then, Nate Lowe of the Rangers, and Samuel, you've got more looks than I have, but I think this is a case where, being freed out of a bad situation, in Tampa, where they really were kind of jerking him around, didn't really have a place for him, has really helped him to thrive in the early going.
I'll just add on Kelly. The thing I love to see early in the season is he's got 14 walks to 10 strikeouts so far. It's a 21.5% walk rate, and yeah, he walked in his 2019 season. He walked 13% of the time, so he's got that kind of patience in his skill set. He 2020 was bad, small sample, only 4.7%, but that shows me that he's got a much better idea of what he's doing at the plate now. And I think, to your point, I still expect there to be a pretty strong platoon split with Kelly, but he only needs to get to like you said, to be maybe a league average hitter against righties, and then he'll just keep mashing lefties. And I think he's pretty good defensively too, right?
I
if
believe so.
I'm not mistaken.
I'd have to look. I always the defensive my memory of defensive numbers.
Yeah,
it's admittedly fuzzy because we don't use them.
but anyway, I mean, to the point where he's, I think, well on his way to carving out a role as just the everyday or close to everyday catcher there, and they'll probably have to find somewhere else to put Dalton Varsho when Varsho comes back to the majors.
Varsho's up. He's pinch hitting. Yeah, he just came up today. He pinch hit, but yeah, I agree. It sounds a lot more like Varsho's going to be a super utility, and even before this year, I don't think they saw Varsho as really a catcher.
Could see Varsho, when the season opens up in AAA, getting some everyday reps in AAA for a while too.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. Some of it too is you look at the Diamondbacks, and they've got some players there. I know their offense has performed, but they have some players there who either going to cool off, or you look at them like, well, Wyatt Matheson and Josh.
I was going to say, you don't have faith in Wyatt Matheson?
I can rattle off all these names. Like the point being, I think Dalton Varsho's talent will find him a position, even if it's not catcher. Like it's not really a battle there for between Varsho and Kelly.
Right.
That's a good place to go to our second to last question. This is our last question from Will. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Okay, for me, this is so growing up, we had in California these drugstores that were called thrifty drugstores. They've since been bought out by Rite Aid, so all the thrifties are now Rite Aids. But when I was young, and this is partly speaking to how long ago this was, but you could get I think it was something ridiculous, like you could get a cone for something like $0.25, and for $1 you could get a triple scoop. And there was a flavor called chocolate malted crunch, and it was a kind of chocolate malt ice cream with chocolate chips like flecks in it, and these little balls that were like kind of candy covered ricey crunch balls. That makes sense. But this flavor it was lodged in my memory as a young child, and the few times I've been able to get it as an adult, it has not disappointed. So it's thrifty / Rite Aid chocolate malted crunch, hands down. There are no substitutes.
Sounds delicious. Can I get that shipped to my house?
Maybe.
Yeah. So for me, it's funny because we do have a couple where I live. We do have a couple of really good ice cream like stores or places to get ice cream, but I don't really think they have my favorite flavor. There's this one local place called Good Nose, which actually their physical location's closed right now because of COVID, but they're planning on reopening in the fall, or actually I think the summer. That would make more sense for ice cream. But I don't think they have a flavor that necessarily stands out, but all their flavors are good. And then there's this place called Tanner's one town over that actually is attached to a dairy farm. Like it's like a small local market, but you can see like the cows on the dairy farm, like within walking distance of the market. And like similar thing, like all the ice cream there is just amazing because it's pretty much dairy fresh. But again, I don't think the flavors really stand out. So, if you're talking about store-bought, I think I'm going to go with like one of the Ben & Jerry's flavors, either New York Super Fudge Chunk or Chocolate Brownie. I am just a big chocolate person, and anything chocolate kind of works for me. But those two flavors, like just they're solid standbys. Like they're the kind of flavors that Ben & Jerry's might make better flavors. But in terms of just a reliable, like, lots of chocolate, and some nice things thrown in there, that those are both two reliable standbys for me.
So I'm very basic. I don't like sweets as much as like the next person. I enjoy some sugar. Like that's not up for debate. But like as I've gotten a little bit older, like sugar has kind of gone down on my list a little bit of things I really super enjoy. But if you can find me good chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream, you'll probably have my love forever. Bluebell probably does it the best. Specifically when I was in college and I was working at the same time, I'd worked till about 10 or 11, and I hated that job very much. So when I was doing, I would drive home. It was probably about a 20-minute drive from my apartment, and I would usually stop at a gas station right off the highway and get like a whole, just like one of those little pints of it, like the personal size, and just eat that in like a whole night, because I truly hated my body at that time. I still do, but I did then too. But like, if anyone that offers me like chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream, even when I go to Brahms, I will get that in a milkshake, which doesn't make much sense, but it's still very delicious.
That makes all the sense in the world.
I mean, it's kind of chunky. That's the only problem. Like the
no
chocolate.
Problem with that.
I mean,
grab a spoon and enjoy the whatever falls to the bottom. It's a little extra bonus.
It has never inhibited me. I will put it that way. Like, it has never been an issue for me. But yeah, I'm a chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream kind of guy. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, 2 quick last things on the ice cream topic. If anyone does come to my part of the world, I will gladly take you to Ferdinand's, which Mike's point about the dairy farm reminded me that at Washington State University, my place of employment, there is a big ag program, and they do have a dairy farm on campus, and there is an ice cream shop connected to that, which is absolutely wonderful. And you can get a little tour of the facility and see them make the ice cream, which is a lot of fun. Second thing is, my very first job was at a 31 Flavors, and the owners had a rule where they did not mind if we ate as much ice cream as we wanted to, as long as we did not do so when there were any customers in the store, in the shop. So there would be weeknights when no one would be coming in, and we would just be goofing around, gorging ourselves on ice cream. I think I was like 15 at the time, so
awesome.
I couldn't put on a pound if I tried. And one night we got the great idea that we would take about a tablespoon of every flavor in the shop and make a milkshake, every flavor milkshake. And let me tell you, it was the worst fucking thing you can imagine. It was hideous. It was like putting refuse in a blender, refuse ice and milk. I do not recommend.
How does that compare to, would you go to the soda fountain and just put a little bit of every soda in there and drink it? Was it better or worse than that?
Worse, because it's 31 flavors, but in reality I think there were like 45, because that was just the brand, but we always had more. And you've got all the chocolate family of flavors, but then you've got all like the sherbets, and the kind of fruity nonsense, and then you've got random little notes of peanut butter and pistachio, and it was I think one sip each, and then we just threw the rest in the sink.
You reminded me while you were talking of a ice cream story that's part of my family lore and is actually one of my first memories. Although it doesn't end with a good memory, but it's not horrific, but I'll share it. So my dad, as you both know, is Argentine. And he immigrated here in 1967. Didn't go back very often just because, it's an expensive trip. It's a flight. And once you have a family, it's a really expensive trip. So we visited when I was like 3 for the first time and going on 4 in 1974. I know I'm giving away my age here. Who cares? So people hadn't seen him. They were all excited to see him. One of his friends owned an ice cream shop. And, he kind of drops in on the friend. The friend's like, oh, Armando, so great to see you, et cetera, et cetera. They go off to talk. And my dad's friend has a teenage son. And he's like, yeah, can you watch Mike or whatever? So the teenage son doesn't know what to do with me, a 3-year-old, which is understandable. So he offers me a little bit of ice cream. I'm a 3-year-old kid. I'm like, okay. So then he offers me more ice cream. He offers me more ice cream. I had like 10 little cups of ice cream. And I was like happy as a clam, and I was on a sugar rush. But that night I had a nightmare, and it was a nightmare born of a stomach ache. And the thing I remember is, this is one of my first memories of first nightmares I remember. It was like a chocolate vanilla strawberry monster essentially chasing me and running after me. And I was like scared. And, I woke up in a sweat, and, I remember my mom racing to me going, are you all right? You're right. And I remember screaming, Mommy, the ice cream monster. So yeah.
Wow.
I feel like monster.
I feel like you should be lying on a couch and I should be taking notes. Like, this feels like a a moment for the therapist.
I've never shared that with my therapist, interestingly enough.
I wish I had the professional qualifications to address that trauma in a helpful way, but I don't. So instead, I'll just.
I've never pointed my therapist to this podcast, and I don't think I ever will.
Smart move.
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. Just keep it all here for us. We will end on one final question here from Corbin at Corbin_Young21. Keeps with the sweet theme. What's your favorite donut?
I'm gonna be boring. For me, it's a glazed cake donut. It's not very exciting, but it's the truth.
So we have a local chain here called Factory Donuts. There's like 4 or 5 locations. It's all just like in like the PA area, and there's some other donut places like in Philly that are also chains. This one has one Philly location, but really good. They opened up in my town. Unfortunately, again, it closed because of COVID. That's a theme, just here economically. But I like their cream donuts, and in particular, their chocolate cookie cream donut. It's chocolate icing topped with like a cookie cream. And the thing about their cream donuts, like a lot of cream donuts, like just has the cream inside. This is almost like the cream's on top in addition to inside, and it's nice. Like if you like your donuts with some cream on them, it's definitely the way to go. And their other kind are the signature donuts, which are the traditional ones with the hole. I think as far as that goes, I'm a fan of the chocolate peanut butter.
My favorite donut is any free donut. Like, I don't really get down on donuts that much.
Fair.
Like I'm not like against them in any way. It's just like it's very rare that I crave donuts or like will like stop to actively peruse donuts. But like if I'm at at work, or if I'm at a function and donuts are there and they have been provided, I will probably kill at least between 3 and 5 donuts. Even though I don't really like donuts, the free donut might be my favorite donut. Also, hey, Mike, I have a question for you. Samuel Hale writes in, guess which Padre just hit a home run in the 6th inning against the Diamondbacks?
Was it Jake Cronenworth?
It was Jake Cronenworth.
That's terrific. Our podcast is already out of date. Like I said, it's things fluctuate very quickly. I wanted to go back to donuts for a second.
Yes, of course.
So you both have Dunkin' Donuts where you live or somewhere near you, I assume?
Yes.
Nope.
What? You don't, Sean.
Not
okay.
I mean, I.
But you know what Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Connecticut for 4 years.
So yes. This again is a younger, older person thing, Samuel. But John, do you remember when Dunkin' Donuts was like actually pretty much about the donuts? Like they've even rebranded now. Like they're Dunkin', and they don't really, they still sell donuts, but they're about the coffee. Like that's really their big thing. Do you remember their spokesperson, the time to make the donuts guy?
I don't.
Yeah, so there was this whole series of commercials with this, I forget the actor, I'm going to look him up as we're talking, but the whole idea of the commercials was, he was always making donuts, and in the initial commercial, he's home, he's getting up, he's like, time to make the donuts, and then he comes home all tired, I made the donuts, it's pouring outside, all that, and at one point he meets himself. I guess the whole idea is he broke the universe. And there's another commercial where this like middle-aged mustachioed man goes to like the supermarket, and he's wearing a dress, and he's covering his mustache with his finger, and he's talking a ridiculous, high-pitched voice, even though it's clearly a male voice, going, "Excuse me, do you make your donuts fresh every 2 hours?" And the person behind the counter is like, "No, ma'am." But I bring all this up because this is a younger, older person thing. When I explain this to my kids, they look at me like I have 2 heads. Like, wait, what? Like Dunkin' was about donuts at some point? Like it doesn't seem like they are. Like it seems like they're not really like they sell them, but they don't seem interested in making them like any good.
It's funny because
people might disagree with me, but yeah.
Ever since I have lived in a place where there isn't a Dunkin' Donuts, I'm vaguely aware that Dunkin' is about coffee and whatever. I guess mostly coffee, but to me, it's always going to be a donut place.
Yeah, and then Fred the Baker, by the way, was the name of the character. If you Google him, He was, and there's a Wikipedia entry. It was actor Michael Vale. He was in their commercials from 1981 through 1987. So obviously, Samuel, you would not remember Michael Vale unless you went down a rabbit hole. And then the final Dunkin' Donuts thing I'll mention is every once in a while the Al Pacino Dunkachino thing pops up on social media, and I hate everything. It's something from the awful movie Jack and Jill. Please don't seek it out. Thank you for your time.
Here's a hot opinion for you. This country is worse because of its coffee obsession. Like the Dunkin' Donuts culture, and Starbucks culture. Like, I'm not decrying their business per se, but like the concept of like coffee exploding over the last like 20, 30, 40 years, maybe a little bit less, just as a general concept of like, hey, coffee is like the thing. Like our collective coffee addiction is annoying, and it's not a personality trait, and I wish people would stop it.
Well, that's another thing too. Like I can remember, this is another older person thing. Like I can remember pretty much Dunkin' Donuts was actually like the best coffee just because it was the only coffee. Like pretty much your other coffee was like, diner coffee or, food cart coffee. But the thing about that is like, I know like, inflation, all that, but you could like get that coffee for like 49 cents. Like now, like it's like $2 or $3 for a coffee, depending where you go. And it's like, really? Like, I just need this to wake up. Like, I don't need this fancy high end thing. Like this is just rocket fuel.
I'm going to sit this one out.
Dear.
I can't engage with this.
Oh dear. Yeah. Mike, end the show. Go ahead. Just end the show.
Welcome. Well, sorry, let me try that again. I'm so nervous from that weird little outro that we just had. Thank you very much for listening to episode 261 of Flags Fly Forever, a Baseball Prospectus Fantasy Baseball podcast. As I say every week, don't forget, you could read I actually counted this time, 18 articles a week we have on the fantasy side. There's John's pitching planner. There's my fab review. John and I have additional articles as well. But there's many, many talented writers, Nick Grimm, Howard Megdal. I'm not going to mention them all right now. For Mike Gianella, John Hegland, Samuel Hale, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully we'll have some coffee and a donut with you in your town in the near future.
Alex Wood is no hitting the Rockies. Good night.
Bye, all.
Clorox knows you want your clothes smelling fresh and clean, but so what happens? That's why we created Clorox fabric sanitizers to freshen up your clothes between washes, pre-treat extra stinky laundry, and make sure every last odor comes out in the wash. Clorox fabric sanitizers take care of all that and eliminate 99% of odor-causing bacteria. Plus, they're bleach-free and safe for all colors and fabrics. When it counts, trust Clorox.
The only thing better than grinding all night for your side hustle is your roommate picking you up with Mickey D's breakfast. The perfect pickup deal.
There's a deal for every morning at McDonald's.
Right now, taste breakfast perfection when you get a warm and savory sausage McMuffin with egg for just $2.50. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal.